All right, we got some guys. We got Cal in the house. What's up, Cal? What's up, everyone? Um, let's see. How's everyone doing? Boom, boom, boom. All right, we'll get to some questions here, and then if you guys have some swings you have prepared, I'm gonna take some. I'm gonna see if I can put some swings on. If you guys want to talk about swings, kind of publicly like this, you can enter. I don't know how, like, maybe you can send me your swings by email, or maybe you could just send them. Yeah, you could send them over Instagram, but I'm thinking, I'm not sure how the YouTube people will send them, but anyways, so let me just get to some questions that I've gotten on YouTube and Instagram lately. The first one is, I think mechanics advance and get polished with time, just as footage of old basketball players looks silly compared to today's game. So I get this a lot because people think that I'm just interested in like the old timers swings. Like I just basically like I'm just someone who's come out and like a curmudgeon who doesn't like, modern times and just saying the old guys are better. Um, it's not it. It's really not it. I've been around this game for a long time. I think uh, one of the I think the benefit that I can provide you guys is I've taken it kind of an outside. I'm gonna actually turn the light down. It's a little too bright in here. Let's see. Let's do that. Is that for the most part I've delved into the baseball and golf industries. I've kind of dipped my feet in, but I think the fact that I've purposefully kept my distance because I know, once you're in it, you you're going to upset a lot of people if you have your own ideas, and I felt that being in the industry, and so I've purposely like stayed my distance, and I think that's that's one of the benefits I can provide to you guys is you're just getting my honest opinion of what's going on out there in swing instruction. And hold on a sec. Let me just real quick see. Okay. Okay, so wow. I'm proud of you. Gave me a super chat for $7. I appreciate that on YouTube. Thank you very much. So I think that's something that I can provide for you guys is just that honest, like I'm not just saying what my mentor told me. I'm giving you my honest opinion of what I think is going on. And I think that in many ways, at least, the older guys had better swings. That shouldn't shock people, but it does. Like people think, everything always gets better in every way all the time. But that's not really the way it happens. I write about this in my books, is that we progress in some areas and we regress in others. And then, yes, we come back typically as humans through evolution, and we come back and we pick up where we regressed and we move that forward. But it's kind of like we move forward like this. Have guys gotten bigger and stronger? No doubt. No doubt. We see that in football. It's obvious, but like people just extrapolate that to, oh, well, then pitch recognition has gotten better and just as good as, it's gotten equally good, equal to how big and strong guys have gotten. And swing mechanics has gotten equally as good as big and strong. Like all this stuff all of it has progressed. No, why? And when you look at it, like when you really question it, and by the way, somebody made me do this because I was on you guys' side. I was like, somebody told me, hey, Babe Ruth was actually the best hitter of all time, and I was like, that's a joke. To me, Babe Ruth was a joke. It wasn't until I got into, 15 years into my studying of the swing that I realized that guy was actually right. I think that guy was right. And by the way, these guys played sandlot ball hours and hours a day. There aren't that many kids doing that. You just got to be honest. Like there aren't that many kids, even if you love baseball, they're not getting those kind of hours. Like try to find a pickup baseball game anywhere. You're not. So going back to the question though, because I'm getting off on a tangent. I often get this about basketball players and football players. We'll look at them, mainly the basketball, because we see the film from 1950s. To me, I think that like professional sports have like periods of time where they are just, at the top of the game. To me, for basketball, I think that was probably around the 80s and 90s. Now, you have to look at how people were being brought up. Again, it goes back to like how much just raw playing time are these guys getting? That's what's going to lead to the best players, not how much did they drill. Honestly, drilling isn't what on a large scale is not usually what leads large masses of people to produce great players. Just because it's not that sustainable. Like kids aren't 8, 9, and 10-year-olds typically aren't going to spend as much time drilling as they are playing the game. And by the way, playing the game is probably a better way to get better. They're actually playing the game. And there's something to be said for that. But people just they just knee-jerk react and say, everything's getting better. It's silly to think the guys from the mid to early 1900s could even compete with the guys of today. Now, getting to the basketball issue, yeah, the 1950s pros didn't look that great, but let's take them as kids. Was basketball really big in the 1930s? Were guys out there playing? No, they were busy playing baseball. Again, I always go back, how were these kids raised? And I don't think that, yes, obviously, mostly white guys in the NBA when it first started, I think in the late 1940s. Was basketball like really a big white person's game back in the 1930s, 1920s as kids? I don't think they were playing a whole lot. I think so. To me, I always look at like, when are they playing the most as kids? Just raw pickup games, sandlot for baseball or on the courts, for basketball. And I bet you in the 1970s, that's probably when basketball really started to be played by kids in the inner cities. And that's probably why we had these great players in the 80s and 90s. And there's a lot of talk between like LeBron or Michael Jordan these days. But the obvious one to me is take away size, like try to equal them out for size. And it's no contest. Michael Jordan was the best. LeBron is so great because he's got 2 inches on Jordan. He's stronger and bigger. But like, if you just look at the way they move, and that's what I do with baseball and golf, is I look at the way they move in their swing. that's what's important to me. That's what matters. I mean, to me, it's Michael Jordan, and so I think the NBA had its heyday, so to speak, in like in the 1980s, maybe early 90s, and that's just the way sports go. But I mean, it'll have another. I don't know. Anyways, so you can't compare. Like, you got to realize, in 1930 and 1940, professional baseball was already around for what? Almost 80 years, 70 years or so. Like, we're not talking, it's not like the NBA. Like, kids were playing out on the sandlots for many decades by that point. The NBA, they weren't. Even professional football, like, these weren't sports. Yeah, of course they look silly in the 1940s footage, but they weren't playing as kids that much like they were baseball. Anyways, so that's that whole thing. Simeon in the house. I think I'm a little late today, and so we're not getting as many people. Like, on the East Coast, it's already 10 o'clock. Most people never report when they've been scammed. They're afraid of the shaming. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to turn a rowboat, I mean, a battleship around with an oar, and that's kind of what we're doing. That's what I'm doing. That's what this kind of movement is doing. Like, what coach who's been teaching the conventional method for 30 years is going to want to listen to what I have to say? You know, it's a weird thing that I do, because I'm kind of selling. Yeah, I mean, coaches would be my best receiver of what I have to say, but they're the least likely to want to receive it. It's really, it's strange. The best place for what I have to say is the hitting facilities or the golf instruction facilities. But the moment they let me in and let me start talking, I'm just going to start saying how everything they've been teaching is backwards. So why would they want me to come in? So, I mean, it's super slow, like, what I'm trying to do. And I honestly think it's going to take probably working with, high level players again, and having them show that it works. And that's what Richard Skank is doing. And that's the reason why he's been kind of such a jerk online. Like, I don't dislike or like the guy. I don't really, I see him as a competitor. I won his number one spot, but people, like, think he's such a jerk, but he's a jerk because of all the resistance that he gets for having this new thing that he wants to say out there. They're not nice out there in baseball. They're very much, they don't want to see guys like me. And so I can get a little ornery sometimes too, because it's pretty vicious out there. But that's what happens when you have any new idea in any industry is going to be met with, like, vitriol. So, guys, I'm sorry. By the way, I want to try to take questions from people who have joined my channel on YouTube the most, just out of respect for those people. I want to provide some value for them. But I also am just missing some questions sometimes. But you think the ABCA, Joseph, on YouTube, you think the ABCA takes new messages? I think that's like the exact opposite. They are the typical, to me, from what I've seen, they are never saying anything new. Like, I've been to a few conventions. They are not interested in new stuff. That's my take. But you're saying ABCA takes people with new messages. I don't see that at all. I think they just want to stay very on the line. In fact, I gave a talk in 2010. HLS. Do you mean HLP? I don't think they started. I think Richard Skank did, and I don't think Richard's. If you're talking HLP, and Richard Skank, Joseph's saying they basically started the HLS movement. He says, but anyways, I don't think ABCA is very. I've almost fallen asleep at some of their talks. It's like atrocious, and I don't know how they fill the room. There are people just there like taking notes, and I'm like, they're so into it, and I'm just like, this is just the same old stuff. Like, there's got to be new ideas out there, right? Like, is it just me and Richard Skank? I respect Richard Skank. I mean, of course, I see him as a competitor, but I respect what he's doing. I know that path that he's walking, and that's very few people, walking that path. Just he and I, from what I can tell. I mean, could you imagine if Aaron Judge swung like Griffey? That would produce some crazy stats. I mean, no more needs to be said. That's like the ultimate statement right there, because there's so much in what Noah's saying there on YouTube. YouTube comment here. He said, could you imagine if Aaron Judge swung like Griffey? That's the future. I mean, that's really what we should be talking about. When somebody you don't even have to be the size of Judge. My goodness. If you're just the size of Bonds, swinging like, I mean, and Bonds had a very good swing. So that's what you can do with a very, very good swing, and you gain 40, 50 pounds of muscle. We saw what you can do. 73 homers is insane. What if you're 280? What if you have 40 pounds on Bonds and you're swinging like Griffey, flat out, like, in Griffey's mold? Obviously, everyone's got their own way of doing lead arm dominance, but that's the future. I mean, if you guys are wondering where we're headed, because I don't know about you guys, but I always like to think, what if we're only like 2% of the way there? Because everyone likes to think we're like 97% of the way there and we only have like 3%. But that's not the truth. We know that throughout human history, we're really like 1% of the way there, right? What happens when we get to in terms of like what we know about mechanics? That's the way I like to assume it is. We're 1% of the way there. What is the next 10 years going to look like? I think it is going to be like, it's going to combine these guys who are huge, and all you guys playing out there, get as big as you can without ruining your joints. For sure. We saw what muscle can do, but don't do it by lifting weights ridiculously and ruining your joints. It's not worth it. But what's going to happen when guys like that are 250, 260, and they understand that it's about lead arm dominance. They have a swing like Mays. They have a swing like Griffey. I'm a pitcher. I watch all your videos to get an upper hand on hitters. Yeah. I mean, if you're a pitcher, just the biggest thing I think is everyone's staying back. And so you can use that to your advantage. I think staying back just makes hitting really hard. Let's see. I want to try sharing something. Sharing my screen here. Oh, Instagram can't see it. Maybe that's not a good idea. Anyways. Huh. Let's see. Maybe I can just hold the Instagram phone. Can I switch my camera? Maybe I can. Let's see. YouTube, are you guys seeing? Let's see. Are you guys seeing McGuire here? Let me see if I can switch this. Yeah. Let me see if YouTube's seeing this. Yes, they are. Okay. All right. Awesome. Let's see. So on the subject of kind of staying back, like, so here's McGuire. I mean, he had a decent swing, but this is just to show staying. This is more staying back, right? He didn't move his head much, right? His head's not moving. If you look at the people in the back, good position there. I mean, look, you can be very lead arm dominant with a Jeff Bagwell kind of swing, like the Richard Skank kind of swing. You can still be lead arm dominant. You don't have to shift a ton of weight. But here's Mays. Okay, let me just. So look how much his head moves forward, right? As he strides, and then of course once he starts his swing, I mean, how's his head gonna move? Some guy on Instagram was like, but once he starts his swing, his head doesn't move. Well, of course. Now look at now this is a little bit, so he adjusts. He doesn't always move that far forward. He's adjusting, right? And if you compare the two positions there, look at how he can lean into the pitch or he can lean back, right? This is the kind of adjustment that, I don't know, like this is a huge advantage for a hitter. Why? Because if they're early on the pitch, this is one way of adjusting. You need weapons against the pitcher. And for that pitcher who said, I watch your videos to learn about hitters, that's a great idea. The big thing I think is that hitters they're susceptible to getting jammed because they're just hanging back on their back leg. They're throwing their hands at the ball. How are you going to hit the inside pitch? It's going to be hard to kind of catch up to that. And Aaron Judge will like get jammed and kind of like slice one off to right field and hit a home run. And people think his swing is great, but like it's not really the ideal way to do it. You want to be able to shift weight and hit from this position here. Now he's already picked up the pitch and he picks it up like as he's in his stride. And that's why he's able to kind of not stride as far in this stride. But this is what hitting it. It's more messy than what, I don't know. It's, for lack of a better word, it's more like you should be more Dave Winfield-esque when hitting. And you guys may not know what that means, but like, you're going to have some hits where you're leaning out in front like Willie Mays is here. And you're going to have some where you're, maybe leaning back a little bit more like Mays is on the left. Like everyone wants to just kind of be in this like robotic kind of stuck in cement kind of swing. And they think that equals good mechanics. Guys, this is normal. That's normal. That's normal in instruction. Like it's not just baseball instruction. Any instruction you get, for some reason, the coaches like assume that the more stiff you are, that must be better mechanics. If we're all over the place, we must not be moving well. Another advantage that I feel like the guys in the Sandlots had, they just figured out what worked. They didn't have all this instruction saying, confine, put your spine angle in this position and don't move from that position. Rotate with that spine angle exactly right. That's all nonsense, man. Like, we're making it way more difficult than it needs to be because we're not focusing on really the few things that matter. And other than that, just get to work, just play, get to play or get to work, whatever you want to call it. But for God's sakes, focus on the few things that matter. And I'll just say them right now. Being more lead side dominant, using more of your lead side and less of your back arm, and seeing more live pitches. If I was you guys, I'd be going crazy, just like asking my neighbors, can you pitch to me? Like anyone who played high school baseball, get them on the roster, have them throw to you. Like I don't know what you guys, if you guys are doing that. If you guys are, let me know, because I do preach about that a lot. But you have to be a salesman for getting people to pitch to you, because every single pitch you see, and obviously you want the better pitchers if you can get them, but every single pitch you see is one more pitch that adds up, and it doesn't go away over the winter. It doesn't go away over the next few weeks. Every single pitch is cumulative and adds up, and that's going to pay for your pitch recognition. And number 3 is the secondary cushion, and kind of working on even like tilting your spine angle forward, just the messiness of like hitting the ball at different times in different locations. Those 3 things are really all that matters, and everything else is pretty much nonsense for the most part. Like in terms of like what's being taught out there. Like I hear just when I look at some of this instruction going on online, like they're focused on this stuff that it just doesn't matter. And like it's just and it's not like because it doesn't matter, oh, okay, he's not getting any worse. No, if you're focusing on stuff that doesn't matter, then you're going to get worse. So let's see. I don't know the answer to the preventative aspect, but I know Trout has spent time recently with Bob Keys, SME, on biomechanics to try to understand his body better and make changes. I think that there's a lot of like, look, even the pros, they feel like, I don't want to miss out, and everyone's going that real confusing scientific route. I don't think it's not what it's cracked up to be. This same thing is happening in golf. Some of you guys are into golf as well, or you are dads who play golf maybe, and about TPI, Titleist Performance Institute. I think that I know it's a large group of people, and I know that you go into their buildings with all this expensive equipment, and it's like, for sure, if the equipment is that expensive, these guys are just as good as the equipment in their knowledge. I get it. You see large groups of people, but large groups of people with teaching something, and you think, for sure, there can't be something wrong with it. So many people are teaching it. Look, we don't have to go back that far in human history to see examples of when large groups of large masses of people had some ideology that we now look upon as like ridiculous. And I just see a lot of that in swing instruction in baseball and golf. I'm not saying, look, I don't know what SME on, I'm not necessarily saying that Trout is on the wrong page or anything. But again, I just think it's pretty simple. You have to see a ton of good pitches. You have to have more lead side, and you have to have some way to swing when you want to swing, not when the pitcher wants you to swing. And I think secondary cushion, leaning your spine angle forward, leaning your spine angle back, however you want to work on that. I mean, you can set up on a tee and work on that. It's a 1-second movement. Let's see. So how does Darryl Strawberry's swing compare to Mays? I mean, they're pound for pound, like Strawberry's like 15. Mays is number 1. They're very similar. I don't know if I should say that. I've been debating whether I should say this. And I don't know if it's offensive, and I apologize if it is. But I think that the same way I was just talking about, I like to look at how like movements kind of start. Like, why was what happened to produce a Michael Jordan? You know, to me, that has to do with, you go back 20, 15 years or so, and you see how were they growing up to have the best basketball player arrive at that time, along with so many other greats. What was going on? To me, I think probably that was when the most pickup basketball was being played in the United States. The same thing with baseball. And the thing that I want to say is, there's something with the African American community, I feel like, in that time period especially, but maybe even still now, that I don't think they messed so much with kids' swings. This is just my intuition. Maybe you guys can fill me in what you think, and I apologize if I'm offending people. I don't know. But I've always thought, because I have so many African American players who who are on the pound for pound list and who I just am very impressed with. And I wonder if like the 80s movement of like, I know when I was growing up in the 80s, I was very influenced by swing mechanics. Very influenced by swing mechanics. I don't know if like if that was something going on in the African American communities, because it hurt me. It hurt me to be influenced by it. But like, I look at Eric Davis. I mean, there's just so many guys. Eric Davis, Kevin Mitchell, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Ken Griffey Jr. Nobody messed with Ken Griffey Jr.'s swing because his dad was a pro. So like, if you're allowed to just have the swing that develops naturally, and you're using like Griffey was, like big bats and crude equipment, that could be a fourth thing that's important. Forget all this technology. Go to the thrift store and get the cheapest wooden bat you can find, or whatever. I don't know. Get crude equipment. Don't go after the expensive stuff. But anyways, Willie Stargell, Willie McCovey. Honestly, I could go on forever. Darryl Strawberry. Going back to your question, I think that those are swings that were really very lead side dominant, and they weren't messed with. They got through that somehow. They got through that young period of time. I know in my community, you couldn't avoid, especially if you were inquisitive like I was. Like, I wanted to learn how to hit. I wanted to learn how to hit better. And I was growing up in the 80s. They were teaching, like, basically take your body out of the hit, like all wrist. So I apologize if I don't know how, like, I've always felt that could be the case, So big Winfield fan. I can picture his swing. It sure was front arm dominant. It was, and it was also very. Winfield is the first guy I think about. Very messy. I watch a lot of old games, as you guys know, and I think about this hit, and I'm sure he had many hits like this, but he had this one hit where the bat went flying towards the shortstop, and the ball, like, I don't know, he got a double out of it or something. But he was so I showed you guys Mays leaning forward. Winfield was so leaning forward, and just like one hands this ball, and the bat goes flying. Winfield is, and that's okay. Like, I don't know. I hit like the way that I'm saying not to. I fell into all the traps that I'm saying don't fall into. And I remember when I was hitting, there was very much this feeling of like, it was like hard. It's hard to verbalize, but it was a very defensive feeling. It was like, and that, like, if I went back and hit again, it would be, look, it would literally be this mentality. I mean, of course, I'd be lead side dominant. I'd be looking a lot more like Griffey than I did, or Mays, or whoever you want to pick. But the mentality would be the ball's got to go across the plate sometime around when I think it will need to, which is around a little after the pitcher releases it. It's got to come across the plate around this certain time. And I'm going to try to hit it around that time. That's it. You're going to have to adjust. It's going to look messy. It's not always going to be right on. You know, it's a percentage thing. But that's just a different mentality. Like, in other words, I'm saying the ball's got to cross the plate sometime after he releases it. You know, whereas before it was like, if he throws a fastball, you know, I'll be ready for it. But what if he throws like a curve? Like, it'll be crossing the plate at a totally different time. And and it's just this very defensive mentality. Forget it, man. Just try to hit the ball hard, you know? And it's just, I think a lot of the confusion, honestly, that I get, a lot of the questions really are just a lack of sandlot play, a lack of play. And I don't mean you have to actually play games, but you have to have that pitcher-batter battle. You have to be engaging in that pitcher-batter battle a lot. That'll give you your pitch recognition. That'll give you all the understanding that Ted Williams, we look at what Ted Williams said and we're like, what? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but he's like, you know, he can get so deep with, like, I don't know, charting his pitches and all that. Like, you can't just give somebody all that info. That's info that he got from doing the pitcher-hitter battle. You have to engage in that battle. I think of these baseballs that were sold on Amazon. If you guys ever find baseballs, they were the perfect baseballs. I had them on my site for you guys to get. And they were a little bit lighter. I want to say, like, I don't know. They were like maybe 4 ounces lighter than a regular ball. They were made, you know, that kind of squish, little bit of squishy material, but not stupidly squishy, but they were lighter, a little squishier, and they had really thick seams going along them. They were perfect for practicing just the pitcher-hitter battle. Because if you got hit, it was a little bit lighter. The big, like, protruding seams. They had extra protruding seams, which I know they thought, this is kind of bad. It's kind of protruding. But man, I was like, so they stopped producing them on Amazon. They were made by this company, Phoenix, which is some, I don't know, Chinese company, I think. But if you guys ever find a ball, let the community know. That's just lighter, a little bit, got some, maybe even just lighter. Maybe it doesn't even have to be squishy, but I think the reason why people don't engage in the pitcher-hitter battle is because they're a little afraid of getting hit, and that's justified. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But these balls are perfect. Like, you just have a bowling ball bag of these and carry them in your car, and at a moment's notice, have somebody throw you balls, you know? Another thing that just occurred to me, maybe is a fourth or fifth thing, I don't know what number we're on, thing to focus on, is switch hitting. That is a low-hanging fruit. Like, no brainer. Like, and people say, well, I'm already, you know, playing pro ball. I got no shot at ever being a switch hitter. Well, do it for health reasons. You have to even out your body, or you're hurting your swing. You're hurting your body. Take some swings at least from the other side. But man, if you're young, switch hit, for crying out loud. Switch hit. Like, it feels awkward. It feels awkward, and maybe it'll never feel totally like your regular side, but That is just some low-hanging fruit. If you never have to see the curveball coming at your head, like, you never have to bail out, like, that's crazy. And you're making your body healthier, your joints healthier, everything. Like, I think uh, the future in baseball. Like, I knew that we were going to see good hitting pitchers. Like that had to happen, and we're seeing that. I think at some point it's going to be all switch hitters, basically. Anyone agree with that? Can I get a hell yeah? Crickets. Winfield wants noise. um, you should get into the development of good throwing mechanics. I would be interested in your take. I have a little something to say about throwing, but it's not much. If you want more accuracy in your throw, you simply bring your arm. I don't think there's as much mechanical stuff going on with throwing. I know people are going to be like, "What are you talking about?" I think that when you add the extra limb, so to speak, of a bat, it actually adds quite a bit to the intricacy of the movement. I think for throwing a baseball, um, the only thing that I've ever seen is that when you want more accuracy, you simply bring your arm closer in to your body. It's like the second baseman short arm throw. They just need accuracy, right? They're not looking for a lot of speed if they pick up a ground ball and they have 3 seconds or whatever to throw it. You know, they're just looking for accuracy. And what do? They short arm it, right? You look at Greg Maddux. He had a little bit more of a closer hand to his rotating torso. What this does is it's about the fulcrum point. If you think of this as the fulcrum point, you're moving the fulcrum point in more of a straight line towards the target as you're releasing. Whereas if you're out here like Randy Johnson, the fulcrum point is now in a circle. So you don't have as much margin for error. So when you take it and you kind of push it more, you're getting the fulcrum point to move towards the target in a kind of, you have a flat zone as you're releasing. And so it's much easier to make it go straight. And I think the only reason I know that's very simple, but I don't hear anyone saying it. I mean, if you guys know of anyone saying that, I think it's very important. You can actually get quite a bit of speed on your throws, even if you're kind of pushing it like that. But it would pay, don't you think, for pitchers to know this? Because when they're, behind in the count and they want more accuracy, maybe, or if they want to be a little bit more wild and maybe intimidate the hitter maybe a little bit, they come from more of a wide arc. Wow. Okay. So I'm sorry. I'm like, let me see if I can get to. I'm like falling behind on Instagram and YouTube, but I'm gonna get to. So as far as throwing mechanic, I mean, that's all I really have, but I think it's a big thing. What does staying behind the ball mean? Simeon wants to know that. Good question. Honestly, conventional instruction has said stuff that makes sense to them, but I think it all pretty much amounts to like stay back and don't ever rotate your body. I mean, that's honestly what I think it basically amounts to. Just look at Camwood bats, what they teach. They literally are having guys swing like this with zero body rotation. But does anyone know what staying behind the ball means? If the ball's a sphere, how do you stay behind it? I don't know. That's another thing with convention. Like, if you take the opposite, like a lot of things that they say, if you take the opposite of what they're saying, well, nobody does that. Like, who hits the ball in front of it? Like, who hits the ball and they're hitting it this way and they're like this? Nobody. So like, they can't be wrong in what they're advocating for, which isn't helpful because all swings fall into the category of what they want you to do sometimes. Let me see. I love these names that I'm talking to. You Mama, Joe Mama. Like, okay. Wait, really? I thought throwing was more of a skill than hitting. I don't know. I mean, brushing your teeth is a skill. Like, I've been doing it only with my left hand for 7 years, and it still feels awkward. Crazy how long it takes your left hand, your off hand to get coordinated. It really is. I wrote today for probably half an hour with my left hand, and it's still awkward. I try to do it I work a lot on my left hand. Dribbling basketballs, I've been working on spinning it and with my left hand. And I'm 48, so we don't learn as well when we're older. But yeah, it's crazy how long it takes. Pitchers should switch pitch. That's another thing we'll see a lot of in the future. That's a no-brainer. Again, you're making your body healthier and you're making your self and team way more valuable. Like, no-brainer, man. And here's another thing that is interesting. I mean, I don't know. It's I think my biggest trick is the swing, the more lead side. That's the main message. But I got some other things that I think are pretty valuable. Did you guys know, like, you don't need someone else to practice throwing? It might even be better to throw by yourself. And I don't even mean throwing against a wall, but that's great too. But throwing in the air is an unbelievable, and this is another thing I do left-handed a lot. I wouldn't say a lot, I write more, but when I can, I throw a tennis ball or a baseball up in the air. What a great way to work on your throwing. It makes you, if you try to throw it up there without moving, it makes you very accurate. Of course, you're going to see that you're throwing it higher and higher as you go. But the leaning back is, especially this day and age where we're all doing this and we're all getting very like this. The leaning back is great, it's just a great move. And God, I was always looking for somebody to throw with. And I did throw against the wall a lot when I was younger, but that's a great way to work on your arm and not wait for somebody else to come around to work on your hitting. To work on your throwing. And yes, work on your opposite hand. You guys are throwing so much with your regular side, you have to even it out. Wow. Let's see. Like Mike Adams talks about the laws of golf. How does body type affect your philosophy in baseball? I gotta say, man, I fall under the category of like, I think we're all similar enough. I'm looking for, like I said, I'm a kind of a one-trick pony with the swing. It's more lead side, less back arm exertion. There, done. 30 years of studying the swing. That's what I got for you. If you don't like it, move on to somebody else, because that's really all I got. And then I have a bunch of ways that you can do that. But for the most part, I could give all my value in an elevator ride and just a few floors too. More lead side, less back arm exertion. Bye. Because from there, you could even just come up with your own stuff to do along, like again, I have my ways of doing it, but um, and and I going back to TPI in golf, and they're in baseball too. You guys may know that they're the hitting academy, or I forget what they call their hitting part, but uh, on base you or something like that, maybe. And look, they're big on we got to give you a test and we got to figure out your body type and let's see what you're doing. What they do is they see what you're doing wrong on video, and then they give you a physical test and they show you this is why you're doing those things wrong. And it's always some limit in your mobility or something like that. This is a good business model, you know, for many reasons. It keeps people coming back. You have a bunch of expensive machines that they don't have. They're basically, if they buy in, which it's a good sell, when you show up to the facility, like you're all in, you're like, these guys are going to take care of me. Look at all these expensive machines and these brilliant people. I'm with these guys for life. Like it catches a lot of people, but I don't think it's the thing, man. I I think you do yoga and you do all these things to increase your mobility, but you do that to be a human. You don't you don't increase your hip mobility so you can swing a golf club better. I mean, that's a natural result, but you make your body better um, to be a human, and that's going to be the best way to work on your body and the best thing for your swing. I'm not like saying, let's dismiss your swing in any way and work out just to be a human. I'm saying that's going to be the best thing for it anyways. You don't design how you work out to be to like just work the muscles that are involved in the swing or something like that. That's a mistake. Um so I don't know Mike Adams, but yeah, I don't agree with this body type thing that's going on. I think it's a good business model. It but we're all similar enough. Um, you know, it- you can do lead. You can to me, it's all about more lead side, and you can do more lead side as a really flexible person, or you can do it as a not so flexible person. Um, Jabs are more accurate than haymakers. Um, Again, I think that that's something that's very much sold to people. Actually, haymakers are pretty damn effective and accurate. Um, Look, I'm a video guy. I'm not trying to just go against the grain. I think that I wrote a book called The Clothesline, which is basically a haymaker. It was called The Haymaker. Um, and I think that that's a big mistake that's going on in the martial arts community is the same thing. Basically, it's going on in baseball and golf. And people are just very into singles and like conservative approaches. I don't know why. I mean, I was too. That may be why I'm so adverse to it. Is because look, I was hook, line, and sinkered for many decades. Not many decades. Well, maybe I don't know. I was right along with you guys or with people who think like that. Like jabs are what makes a good boxer. Um, and again, I'm not saying singles all suck and bunts are all stupid or jabs are all stupid, but they're way overrated. Like you need a lot of jabs to finish someone. And by the way, I boxed under Kenny Lane, who fought for the championship in two different belts back in the 50s or 60s or something like that. But this was when I was a kid. And my jab was my favorite thing. I just stayed away from people and somehow I had a quick jab that I just loved the jab. And maybe it had to do with me just kind of buying in. I was always looking to be mechanical, like the craftsman. But now I think you can be the craftsman and hit bombs. You can be the craftsman and throw haymakers. You can have a very technical haymaker. Just because it's a circular punch doesn't mean that it's stupid or reckless. Not at all. Rocky Marciano, uh, and I know I'm going way back, but there are guys even today who use the haymaker, the circular punch, and have had great success with it. But it's just not talked about. It's not utilized, and it's not taught, and it's crazy. And once that's taught, that's going to change the game. Once that's accepted on more of a, it's almost like a bad word, the same way that going for home runs or something like that is a bad word in baseball. So sorry guys, I'm like, you being serious? I've seen different variations where pitchers will stand on their front leg, get into a RDL, and throw into the ground. I don't know about that. At 50, I hit a home run in an old man's league, and the ball went about 385. And I will say, it's the methods you teach is what I do. You are correct. I mean, if you see, well, thank you for that. I'll just say thank you. Most likely, when you see the ball flying out and it's somebody who's not like, 6'3", 240 pounds, and even for those guys, it's you're gonna have to have some lead side in your swing. I mean, even someone like Bonds, like I don't think we should be like imitating Bonds in this kind of cartoonish way that we're doing now. I mean, the swing that's being taught is basically Bonds' cartooned swing. But even Bond, like, I don't hate Bonds' swing. He had a lot of lead side in his action. Of course, he grew up swinging these heavy bats. They didn't have light bats. He even said it in an interview. I've seen him say it. Like, he was swinging heavy bats from a very young age. You're going to have to be more lead side. I see what 108 Performance is working on. I'm not a big fan. But that's nothing against them. I'm just, honestly, there's nobody out there who I'm going to be like impressed by what they're teaching. It's just nobody. I'll get off. It's not about me, so I'll get off me in a second. But nobody has kind of, the path that I went through is very peculiar. And that I think, like I started this whole thing off with, that I think is what is an advantage to you guys, is you're getting somebody off the beaten path's point of view. There's no way I'm going to look at somebody else's teaching and be like, it's going to align with what I teach, because they would have had to walk a similar path, and and to do that, they'd have to be crazy like I am. So, it's just not, these days, it's not going to happen. Not until the swing instruction community has a lot of evolution to it. It's just too stuck in its ways, and they think that they're moving like really fast in the forward direction, and like, oh, what we're teaching today is like so advanced. It's just, they're just embedded in this they're embedded in it, and they don't really see that it's actually not, it's not that creative and advanced. It's pretty much the same stuff, just packaged a little bit differently. I mean, like, they don't say stay back anymore like they did in the 80s. They say rotate on the back femur, but it's the same thing. Moving better is so important and often overlooked. Dude, 100%. Movement is so underrated, whether you're talking about the baseball swing, the golf swing, the punch in MMA, or exercise. I mean, this is where I might lose some of you guys, but maybe I'll, in the future, as I kind of show you how I think that people should exercise. The idea of like exercise being grab a weight and move it in this line 12 times in the same line, like you're not respecting the movement. You know, there's no respect for the movement. Movement is like nutrition, and you need uh, Katie Bowman said that, so I don't want to steal her stuff. Look into Katie Bowman if you want, but it's true. Movement is like nutrition. You need different nutrients. You can't just have, you know, lemon juice every day and have a good, a bunch of vitamin C. No, you need a variety, and in movement you need that too. And you need to have more mobility is really the word, but it's moving in many different ways. Like people think I'm going to work out and they move, whether it's running or Stairmaster or weights, like they're just moving in the same way. And you're just grinding that same pathway over and over and over again. And that's a disrespect of movement. And for sure, I mean, people think that that movement is just so advanced and like we're getting. I don't think so. I think that we're very much in the dark ages when it comes to respecting movement. Jamie, I'm sold on what you're teaching. Implementation is the difficult part. On most youth and high school sports teams, what the coach says is gospel. If you deviate, there is hell to pay. God, I had a good. What was the God, I had something recently that I thought was a good strategy for a coach, again, like kind of against a coach who's very very dictatorial, I guess, in what he teaches with the swing. But I don't remember. um, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's funny. When I played in college, I played with a coach who was very hands off, very hands off. And I remember feeling like, almost like feeling a little bit like I, I guess, for lack of, I'm searching for the word, but I wish, I wished at the time that there was some more instruction, I guess. I didn't respect. I thought that I was on a lesser team because there wasn't a lot of instruction. But now looking back, I feel like he was doing it the right way. I don't. I honestly, and he even did practice a lot. Like we just played. I mean, he was like, and and he watched, and I think that that's honestly the best thing you can do as a coach. I feel like, I mean, yeah, you can drilling one hurts sometimes, but it's tough. The only thing I can say, I guess, is try to maybe establish with the coach before you join the team. But so many coaches just want to teach the swing. Like I don't know. It's a tough. It's it's a tough landscape out there, man. I have daughters, and one of my daughters, I want her to play all sports. I wasn't trying to push her into baseball, but I had her play baseball a couple years ago, and it was painful to watch. For one, they just it was so ridiculous. Like they would fiddle with the pitching machine for like so long, and it would break down, and they're fiddling, and I'm just like, we're throwing to like 6 and 7 year olds, like just throw to. But I guess the league wanted them to use pitching machines for some weird reason. This goes back to like why do I think that maybe guys were better in ways back in the earlier part of the 20th century. Well, I mean, while we're fiddling with pitching machines, like they were just seeing pitches, you know? Um, gosh, I'm sorry, man. I wish I could help like with that advice. As far as coaches out there, it's tough to watch. I had a tough time. And what I was going to say is then you had the guys like teaching the swing, like during quote unquote games. We really, God, there's so many rabbit holes I could go down because the kids never learned what baseball actually was because we didn't play actual baseball. There was like every inning, every kid got an at bat. I don't know how many of you guys have that same thing. So they didn't really understand what was going on, like what baseball really is. But in between like pitches, like coaches would be like instructing kids on like take your hands directly to the ball and like take your body rotate, don't pull on, all the stuff. It's really painful, man. Yeah, and the high school, sometimes the coaches can just be overbearing. And like I said, I thought I was unlucky in college because I had such a hands-off coach. But man, he was ideal. That's what you want, hands off, Sure, you just want them coaching like the team coaching stuff. And honestly, I don't think that there's that much to do as a baseball coach. I think that the whole like strategizing during games, like just now, having said that, if I was a coach, I would probably have them doing a lot of lead side stuff. So I'm kind of a hypocrite. But then again, I mean, the only reason why I think it's detrimental to teach the swing is because what they're teaching out there is just nonsense. Best way to remove poolside topspin and replace it with heavy backspin. Don't worry about all that stuff. That's nonsense. You're buying into all the junk that the coaches want to talk about. Just hit the ball hard. Don't worry about how it's spinning and what field it's going to. That's all BS. That's just stuff that coaches these days want to talk about to sound like they're really smart. I'm sorry, man. That's just BS. Some hits will go to the opposite field. Some hits will have topspin. Some hits will have backspin. Be more lead side. And don't worry about all that junk. You've said younger kids develop this pattern by swinging heavy bats. Could you do the same pattern older guys that may already have? No. That's not it's no longer, that opportunity has passed. That's a great question. That opportunity has passed. You can't take a sledgehammer and start swinging it. You're going to hurt yourself for one, but also you're still overexerting the back arm. And so when you pick up a lighter bat, that movement pathway is still there. What you want to do is now you have to deliberately overuse the backside and underutilize the back arm. I mean, overuse the front side. Yeah, I said that right. Overuse the lead shoulder, upper back. Focus on using more of that. Swing a lot with just your lead arm, and consciously underuse the back arm. Now you have to rewire consciously. Does it matter if you do lead arm swings in the cage or on the field? Great question. God, you guys are awesome, man. Part of me just wants to say, just start swinging more with the lead side. Just do that a lot, and get that pathway built. As far as in the cage or on the field, no, it doesn't really matter. I like the field better probably because it's just in the cage. You're not learning from ball flight. And I'm not saying you're trying necessarily to backspin or topspin or all that stuff. But there's clearly better ball flight and worse ball flight. And in a cage, everything looks good. I suppose, you could use I'm not against technology. I mean, you could use the what do they call it? Launch monitors or whatever, and have a screen of you hitting on Fenway Park or whatever, see the ball flying. And I suppose that's probably as good if you're in a cage. If you have that option, maybe that's, but yeah, in a field or on the field or in a cage, I think it's the biggest thing is that you're taking some swings with your lead side and work both sides. The strongest guys I know are rock climbers. Exactly. How about gymnasts? People don't even, I mean, I hear it talked about a little bit, but it's like everyone's doing this for bigger arms. This is the stupidest movement. I'm sorry. I don't want to offend anyone who's doing it, but curls, especially for a baseball player, like I'm shocked when I see professional athletes doing curls. Like, have they not heard? I mean, I guess people aren't hearing. Like that's just a movement that's very unnatural. Up until 1950, before that time, when would humans have been doing a curl movement? Remember, movement is like nutrition, and like nutrition, we have to go back like 10,000 years to see what they were eating for us to eat right, because that's the way we were eating for millions of years. Well, same thing with movement. If you're doing curls a lot, guess what? Your ancestors weren't. So you're doing damage. And you guys know when you get into curl, like your shoulder hurts, right? Like you got to protect your shoulder. You're playing baseball. That's very difficult on your shoulder. I know younger people, they don't care, but even without pain yet, you're still hurting your movement. But yeah, rock climbers, and they're moving in all these myriad of ways. Like I said, gymnasts, like they have the biggest arms. Like the bicep is very much a stability muscle. Like get on rings and just you can't do the cross, obviously, but like something like the cross with your feet on the ground though, and just kind of like press down, and you can work the bicep in that way. That would be much better. But on rings, do pull-ups. That's a great way to work the bicep. It's a natural move that's working the bicep in a natural way, It's astonishing to me when I see and I see guys who are like claiming to be like trainers, and they're just doing like the traditional weightlifting stuff. And all right, guys, I'm sorry if I missed some stuff, but have you ever I'm missing a whole bunch, but I don't really know how to. What way do you think would be smarter to gain weight without hurting joints too much? Should you work out like a bodybuilder? Look, or just eat a lot to gain weight? No. I don't. People want things real fast. I understand, but building muscle is it takes some time, and I think you should work from the middle out. I think primarily you should work the spine, and it's very unsexy, and people don't want to hear that. They want to get under the squat bar and like go crazy and do a lot of damage. Again, I'm not saying that with my approach that I'm not conceding that you're gonna gain less weight, muscle mass. But I think you should work the spine primarily. You should work off of gymnastics rings, spend a lot of time on gymnastics rings. It's all about intensity. That's it. And you can get intense without added weights, and you can get intense moving in all sorts of ways. I'm gonna post some videos showing you guys a little bit. I have to figure out how I wanna kind of put it out there, but I know I'm dissing a lot on like the conventional way of gaining muscle mass without actually showing you guys. I do have some stuff on my paid membership on YouTube, because you get the access to my course, which has a lot of this stuff. But start with gymnastics rings. Just get gymnastics rings, and the only instruction I would give you is have fun, but move slowly. Always move slowly. And guess what? It's harder to move slower. It's easier to throw stuff, and that's idiotic, because again, you're not training to increase speed or improve the speed of your baseball swing. You're training to make your muscles more resilient so you can have more speed when you do swing. That's a big distinction. So should you work out like a bodybuilder? I don't think so. I don't think you ever should. I think that's very hard on the body, and it'll make you very stiff and robotic and unathletic. To me, that's how I always felt, and I always wondered like what was going on. I felt terrible. At one of the worst seasons I had was I grew up in Philadelphia, and this was my last year of high school ball, and all I did was lift hard. Basically, I threw a little bit in the gym or something, but I just lifted hard, and I went out to the shortstop position, and I felt terrible. It was the worst. And then Kevin Stocker, the Phillies shortstop, because they were on strike. It was like 93 or something like that, 94 or something. And so he came in and talked to us, and he goes, I don't lift. Like, one of the things he said in his speech is, I don't lift any weights. I think they make you too stiff. And here I was like, great. I wish he would have told me that before. But it's not building. Don't blame building muscle. It's just the two-dimensional kind of movements that go on in weightlifting. Just do, and this, like it's like trying to get good nutrition only eating at GNC stuff, like only eating like powdered protein or something like that. Like it's as far as like, so I mean, spend a lot of time on the gymnastics rings. You can do body weight squats. You can do. I'll show you guys. Honestly, I'll put out a video pretty soon, because it's. I'm getting a lot of questions about this, and I think it's really important. Primarily, I want you guys to work your spine. I want you to work it in waves. I want you to always try to work muscles in waves if you can. But gymnastics rings are great. The best thing I know of. AI will revolutionize baseball. It'll revolutionize everything. Hitters will be able to see little things pitchers do to determine what pitch will be thrown. Yeah, but pitchers are going to have a response to that. So that'll be shut down pretty fast. This is not going to be fair. Well, I mean, I don't know what AI will do. Honestly, I don't think any of us really know. I've been playing golf at Pebble Beach every night because I have this is virtual reality, though. I don't know if that's not really AI, I don't think. But man, I mean, the combination of those two things are gonna, like, I have that MetaQuest thing, and I've literally been playing Pebble Beach 9 holes every night, and I'm just like, this is crazy. Like, I don't even have to leave my living room, and I'm happy. Would you say would you say your front arm dominant philosophy is comparable to a tennis two-handed backhand? Well, I mean, a tennis two-handed backhand is a yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's a you know what's funny about that? I mean, a tennis two-handed backhand is just a swing. It's a two-handed swing, right? Same same kind of thing as golf or baseball. But what's really interesting is when I was little, I played a little bit of tennis. I would have access just a few weeks a year to this tennis court and we'd play. And I always it wasn't even something I don't think I ever even verbalized, but my left-handed tennis swing was, um was better. Like, it was it always produced this consistent hit, but it was weaker, so I just thought, "Oh, yeah, but it's weaker," but all it needed was some fine-tuning and some more reps, but it was consistent topspin, and it was all because my back arm was totally useless. It was just supporting the move, and that was an advantage. The strongman competition guys are crazy strong. Yeah, and, I mean, I I'm trying to sum up, like, look, strength we know strength does a lot for baseball, right? The steroid let's get something from the steroid era. Let's not just make fun of it and criticize it or brush it under the rug like so many people wanna do. Let's learn what we need to learn from it. And what we learned is muscle is important for hitting. If we didn't know that before, we know that now. Big guys do really well with hitting. I'm all in favor of getting as big as possible. Um, so I would say if you're gonna use weight, no, I don't even. I mean, if you have to use weight, and I don't recommend it, but try to move in as many different kinds of movement as possible, and don't move fast. But I don't know how you can do that with weight. Um, I would look at yeah, I mean, just try to move in different ways. I don't know. Do a lot of static holds, uh, but work your spine, work your like. People laugh at me, but I would just get into yoga. If you got like, I know people laugh and they think it's stupid because they think of like a skinny guy. Like, I'm sorry, I would just, I don't believe any of that crap thrown around the weights is it's stupid. I mean, I'm sorry. I would just get into yoga. And if you want to get bigger than what your yoga class is doing for you, then do the push-ups, do the body weight squats to intensity. You don't think you're going to build muscle doing 50 body weight squats in a row or slowly? Um, you're going to get a burn. You're going to get a worse burn actually than if you had weight. To me, having adding weight is actually like it's the easy way, you know? Um, so just to real quick say what I like to do and what I would recommend is kind of this flexing yoga movement where I'm flowing. So I move in sort of a yoga way, but I'm flexing the whole way. I think what you need to flex your own muscles, not use weights to flex your muscles. Anyways, well, I'll have to get more into that. Um, Love your content, man. I had a lead arm dominant swing as a kid and I hit well, but I was coached away from it. So many guys are like that. Is Cal still with us or is he long gone? Um, yeah, so many guys. I can't tell you whether it's dads of players or players themselves. They get coached out of the swing. And I hear this a lot, what this gentleman's saying. Um, I hear a lot of like low like I don't know how old he is, but it sounds like he might be like late teens or like early 20s. I'm getting a lot of younger guys saying, man, I just had a great swing just 10, 15 years ago when I was growing up, and it got coached out of me. And now I'm trying to get back to it. You can do it. You can do it. But like I said, it's you're going to have to do it consciously. You're going to have to consciously feel more of your lead side. You're going to have to consciously feel less back arm exertion. So thank you guys. Thank you guys for your support, man. God bless to all you guys as well. Mass equals gas. Dude, mass is important, man. You saw what Bonds did. Basically doubled his home run production. And a lot of guys did. Some guys tripled it. It's insane but remember, and steroids is cheating. I would never want anyone to do steroids. The weight that you gain on steroids is lopsidedly muscle. So it's apples and oranges. Like, people think that like, oh, Bonds did steroids. Tomato, it's no big deal. Like, it's night and day difference, man. And I'm not saying he would have been who knows what kind of player he would have been. Maybe he would have been as good as like his dad or something, which is no small feat. But just look at the bodybuilders who are taking steroids versus the guys who are natural. I mean, it's a completely different game. And baseball is the same way. It's the same comparison. I want to just say, because I saw the name Ido Portal. Boom. Ido Portal. Okay? That is a guy, that's what I'm talking about. All of you guys interested, if you just interested in gaining muscle, go look at Ido Portal. Go look at Steve Maxwell. Go look at Drew Bay. Those guys, those are the three guys that I would say, because I can't articulate what the hell I'm trying to say when it comes to building muscle. Look at those guys. And, you're going to get a lot of funny looks doing some of that stuff. Who cares? It's going to make you not only stronger, it's going to make you more coordinated. It's going to build your spine. It's, Ido Portal talks about the importance of connected movement versus something. Yoga Kathleen said that. Ido Portal, man. Huge, very influential in my understanding of movement. His lizard walk. Beautiful. Beautiful exercise. And guys, you don't need to lean on that many movements. You could do like 4 different movements on the rings and focus primarily on them, and then just spend the rest of the time playing around on them. Do the lizard crawl that Ido Portal does. Do, I don't know, upward and downward dog progressions. Like, there are certain movements there's certain ways of exercising that are just way more valuable than what's going on out there in convention. So Joe Mama's still with me. There you go. Bundle Save. I don't know what that means. I'm missing. I haven't heard that one yet. You might be able to J bands because they give resistance to whatever you strap it on, like put it on your ankle and kick to work your quad without. Everybody wants little toys and gadgets. I think it's just like human nature. Like, and I was this way too. I'm not making fun of anybody out there. And I'm probably still a little bit like this way, but like, you don't really need anything. I hate to, Like I kind of pride myself actually because I do my workouts in like a 3x6 little area. Like, have you ever held a plank with your arms bent? And I don't do this necessarily. I do this kind of, but I'll move waves through my spine as I'm. That's somewhat like what I do. Like hold a halfway push-up position and just move waves through your spine. Done. Do that for a minute. Tell me how you feel. That's a better workout than anything that I've seen online. That single workout. 60 seconds, 90 seconds, whatever, whatever you need for intensity. That's kind of the stuff I'm talking about. And maybe you shift as you do it. You just got to feel a bunch of different. Once you get into this, you'll realize how silly like the conventional weightlifting and bodybuilding kind of like people think of exercise, they think immediately of machines. Like exercising means machines. So anyways, what you're talking about, the J band, I don't know what that is, but you don't need band. I got into bands too. I thought I'll get into bands. I can take them anywhere. But again, I don't, our ancestors didn't have bands. And so I just think that it's a very unnatural way to do it. And it's not necessary. Just again, do super slow body weight squats until it burns like heck. And you'll be wanting to cry to mama. Like, get rings. Start playing around on rings. You'll want to cry to mama. Like, you can get intense with this stuff. Planks and Turkish get-ups. Turkish get-ups with the kettlebells. Planks, like, they're pretty basic, but I like to move waves and like get blood flowing into all different areas. But yeah, that's kind of along the lines of what I'm talking about. Yes, Conor McGregor's movement coach was Ido Portal, and unfortunately, like they don't seem to be working together. I think Conor's kind of gone off in a bad direction, and I think that's he should have stuck with him. I think they were on a good, that movement idea. You're going to beat people with your movement, guys. You're going to beat people with your movement. That's the big edge. I don't know how else to say it. That's the big edge. People don't respect their movement. Yep, back when McGregor was still flexible and dynamic. Let me see if I've missed any. I feel like it's a one-handed backhand as well. I'm left-handed but bat right. Finally embraced lead arm this season and hit 540. Are you playing as an adult in a T-ball league or something? Like with 8-year-olds? Like 540? That's crazy. I'm just kidding, but that's insane. Good job. In my men's league. But still, that's men's leagues can be tough. Over 63 at bats. It's honestly a game changer. Thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you. I'm not sure what Sean or more is not necessarily true. No one wants to give their information anymore and holds their cards close. If you get into smaller conversations, you can find some interesting new ideas. Okay. Well, I hope to be like providing something fresh for you. Like I said, I traveled a very unconventional path, knowing that it was going to deliver some unconventional answers. And so that's what I can provide to you guys. I really respect the heck out of you guys for being here, listening to this guy. Like I would never be as so perspicacious as to know that there's something going on that's possibly of value in what I have to say. In other words, I don't know how to seek out like unconventional information like you guys are doing right now. Like Mike Adams talks about laws of, I already read that. Do you work with any MLB players today? And if not, do any of them that you know do lead arm dominance drills? I do not work with any MLB players today. Um, I think that's in the cards for me in the future. I did back in the early 2010s, as a lot of people know. And I was, to my knowledge, the first one to kind of independently work with major league hitters. And then I removed myself from all of that and wanted to kind of reshape my ideas on the swing, and then kind of entered back into it again in about 2018. And just people don't know you anymore. I mean, it's like in this day and age, I don't know, maybe it's always like that, but it's always been like that. But at least in this day and age, like it's, basically I had to start completely new, which is fine. But I think that at some point, people are going to have to show that this technique is working. I don't want to say it already is shown that it's working, because if you even look at the great hitters of today, they're very lead side dominant. But I would like to take someone who's very light. Like the ideal player would be a professional who's in the minor leagues and hadn't hit home runs before, and 2 to 8 home runs a year average, and then I take them to high teens at least, but preferably like high 20s, low 30s, and they weigh 175, 185, tops 195 or something like that. That would be the proof that I'm looking for. So we'll see if it's in the cards. Maybe you guys can go along on this ride with me and see what's going to happen. Maybe it'll be one of you guys. And actually, I think I won't even have to be personally there with someone. I prefer to be like this. This is more efficient to spread my word like this. This is more efficient than getting in a plane and going and instructing one guy or something like that. So maybe it'll be like just a kind of a movement where lots of guys are incorporating this more lead side understanding, and it's just kind of like, it doesn't have to be that they work with me in person. I've been teaching my son Jamie's technique for 3 years now, and he almost cleared the fence at 8 years old, 8 years, 4 months old. That's awesome, man. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I mean, with kids, you kind of just have to stay off. Like, you just encourage them to continue what they're doing, right? Because so many of you guys, like, I get a lot of guys who their kids haven't yet been affected by conventional instruction. And they're like, man, I'm so glad I found you. Like, my kid's already doing what you say. And it's just a matter of like, good, just keep them doing that same thing, and that'll be good. And that's really easy, right? Would swinging something like a power pipe, what is that? Help older guys develop lead arm without having to specifically drill the lead arm. Want to make changes without guys knowing. Why would you want to? I don't know what a power pipe is. I don't know why you'd want to make changes without guys knowing. Are you so competitive? You don't even want people to get like to even get in on the knowledge that you have? That's awesome. But you have to consciously change it. Like I said before, once you have that pathway, that neurological pathway worked where the back arm is overexerting, um, it's not going to work like a kid, like it works with a kid. Like kids develop more lead side swings because their back arms aren't strong enough to overexert. And so they learn that motor movement and they ingrain it. But most of us who are later in our lives and been influenced by conventional instruction, we have learned too much back arm exertion. And that is stuck in there. And you have to consciously change it or it's not going to be changed. I got to get my waves in on Instagram. Like I don't, so this is awesome, man. Thank you guys. Like this is cool. Move like a snake and climb or use rings. Bet I got it now. Yeah. Yeah, man. It's a better use of your time. It's more I mean it's a more fun way of doing it. If you have to hit the weight room, like honestly, I would do it like kind of like once I'm sorry, once a month. I know that's going to be like but like once a week hurts to say. It hurts for me to say that because that's actually too much to me. But yeah, other than that, like I would just, but I know a lot of you guys have to exercise. Like your team has you on some program, but typically the teams don't want you to be lifting heavy. But again, I see a lot of irresponsible young trainers out there on Instagram just doing stupid stuff. This guy at the Summers Method, I'm sorry, man, I'm gonna call him out. He like wanted to do a video and he had this guy come out of his car and he wanted to show how like he could make him swing faster, like after he warmed him up or whatever. And so he had him come out of his car and they measured his swing without warming up, swinging as fast as he possibly could. And I just shut off the video right there. I'm just like, this is insane that people like this are actually leading people. Like you, Steve Maxwell, one of the guys I said you guys should follow if you're interested in building mass. Okay. Steve Maxwell is way more knowledgeable than anybody. I mean, he knows his stuff. He's more knowledgeable than all this stuff I'm seeing on Instagram. And I forget why I was bringing him up, but follow him. He is in favor of super slow movements, like movements that aren't going to get you injured, but also build muscle. I mean, of course we want to build muscle. It's not like I'm conceding that, like I said. Can we break down Kyle Tucker? I think he does a great job and a great example of front side dominant. Yeah, Kyle Tucker is one of them. I always forget the guys like Acuna has this very casted out bat, but gets a lot of front humerus compression, is very lead side dominant. But everyone is kind of, I mean, even the guys who are lead side dominant, when you hear them talk about the swing, it's like they're actually trying to move away from they're trying to move away from lead side. So like again, that's why the guys of today, like I don't feel like as a whole, they have as good swings as guys from long ago because they didn't have this concept of it's bad to pull your shoulder, don't bar the arm, don't drag the barrel. Like everyone out there even in the major leagues, is pretty much bought into the conventional understanding because it's like a club. I mean, it is. And like, if you're not in the club, you're doing something different. And you got to be someone strong like Josh Donaldson to do something different and not give a crap what people are going to say about it. But, he's a flash in the pan. He came and went. But he was a good example too. He didn't buy into any of this stuff that's being taught. He said flat out, the barrel's got to drop behind you. And he pretty much said it like, as your front arm compresses. I don't think he ever said that, but he did it. If you look at his swing. There's no old video where Babe Ruth explains the difference between the baseball swing and the golf swing and he basically says one you stride, the other. Yeah, his instructional stuff is kind of silly. Like, what do they call it? Like a, I don't know. They had some weird name for a guy who swung hard. That I don't know. I forget what it was, but look, don't try to get instruction from guys who hit well. Maybe in the future, that'll be a possibility because, as we get a more lead side understanding, like you're going to see good hitters who were made. But up till now, like not a lot of hitters have been made. They just kind of they take their swing mechanics for granted. Oh, Manny Machado is I think one of the best examples of what I teach. Tatis also, from what I've seen, their swings are very lead side dominant. Getting ready for 13U next year. Any tips about getting ready for the big field? I'm using the Camwood bat for more power. What do you think? Are you trolling me? This is a troll. He brought up Camwood. This has got to be a troll. I think you're in the wrong live stream. I think you think you're in Camwood's live or something. I don't know. But the Camwood bat, it's kind of a gimmick. And what they teach, man, I would stay far away from that stuff. That's just my opinion. Camwood, don't come after me. I know you do a lot of ads, so I know that you guys have a lot of money. I can't lawyer up like that. But just my opinion. Camwood is dangerous. But getting ready for the big field, like, what does that mean? Like, you're always trying to hit the ball as hard as you can. You want to get ready for all fields. If it's a small field, you want to hit it way over. And I'm not just into home runs. I know people equate what I have to say like I'm part of the launch angle craze. Like, swing up more. That's what I'm in favor of. No. But you always should be trying to hit the ball as hard as you possibly can. I know there are 2-strike mentalities. That's BS. You have 3 chances. Every single one of those chances, swing as hard as you can. Like, you want to have a 2-strike approach, fine, have a 2-strike approach. But I just think it's overthinking, man. It's overthinking. You think Babe Ruth had a 2-strike approach? Like, if you get good enough at hitting, the 2-strike approach is like. You think Mickey Mantle had a 2-strike approach? Maybe, but I doubt it. Did Ted Williams? Anyone know? I don't know if he did. He may have, because he was more of a cognitive type player. But when you have a great swing and everything is dialed in, your pitch recognition, like, you don't have 2-strike approaches, man. You just hit that ball hard too. So I don't have any tips. I'm not trying to don't mean to but I mean, the field doesn't matter. Hitting is hitting. The goal is to hit the ball as hard as you can. Let Let me see. Eric Fritz. Let me hold on just a sec. So I'm sorry if I skipped some of you guys. Let me just get Yoga Kathleen. Yoga Kathleen, do you play baseball too? What are you doing here? I mean, I'm happy to see you. Definitely happy to see you. I'm flattered actually. I think the community needs to move towards yoga. Coach Zhang Zi has an interesting philosophy. Fascia connection, connected movement starts with the feet. A lot of elite athletes have very developed feet. Barefoot training is super helpful. I never wear shoes. I mean, it can be icy outside, and I'm walking out barefoot. I don't walk in the stores barefoot, but yeah, I think I'll be showing you guys some of the stuff I do and I favor, but I do a lot of balancing on one leg. And trying to move around sort of in a half moon kind of where my upper body, where my rest of my body is horizontal. And man, you can work it's so good for the hip joint, which is so important in the swing. I mean, you want to work the hip, you want to work things like the hip joint and the spine, things that are very unsexy and people don't want to like do it. But if you want to know what's best for being a human and best for the baseball swing, stuff like that, just balance on your hip in a half moon. I think it's called the half moon. Like balance on your foot in a half moon, where you're twisted the other way, and do that for a minute, and your hip is going to start burning. Just stay on it until you can't do it anymore. You want to talk intensity, like you'll see, you don't need weights. So Eric Fritz, let me see. The things you advocate for in the swing, three main being flatter barrel, better connection at contact, and less flip in the extension. Less flip in the extension. Out of those three, which is the most important to you? More lead side. I mean, I'm just having more lead side will naturally produce your positions that you need to achieve, you know, and sometimes it's not going to be necessarily as connected as a Ken Griffey Jr. It's not going to look like Albert Bell. They both did more lead side completely differently. Albert Bell was more like Jackie Robinson in the way that he looked through the swing. But I'm trying to think if one of those is more important. I would say probably flattening the barrel is probably, I've always, not always, but I for a long time, I've very much favored the flattening portion of the swing. If you get that right, it's pretty hard to screw it up from there, because you can feel when you do it, when the back arm lays down instead of fires out, the whole swing takes on a different structure. It's like to me, I mean, you could say, it's kind of like you're like train tracks. Like you split off into one direction or the other at that moment, in a way. So I would say that flattening the barrel, you're going to have to get your body more involved in the hit. That's why it's such a weird kind of uncomfortable position to do, or movement to do, for people who are so used to overexerting from the start, because it's like that's the body saying, we got to find a new structure if you're going to start the swing like this. I asked this because I've seen lots of videos, specifically Hank Aaron, who has tremendous barrel flattening, but does flip quite a bit at extension. You mean at the ball? Like, yeah, he uses his wrist. Curious what you find is the most important thing in the swing. I'm not in favor of not using the wrists. I think that you should go ahead and use the wrists, but to flip at the ball however much you find necessary, and the way to determine that is to swing with just your lead arm, and figure all that out. But today's swing, it's like that's all they want you to use is flip. They just want you to not rotate the body and just, I mean, you only have flip. Thanks for your questions. Oh yeah, Bautista and Donaldson with the Blue Jays around 2015. They were doing something different with the massive leg kick and whipping their bodies, just launching home runs. Yeah. Bautista's an interesting thing because, I mean, Edwin Rodriguez, thank you so much for the super chat. $20 super chat. Thank you so much. Is exit velocity a true measure of how hard a ball has been hit? If not, what is? Yes. Yeah. I don't know how true the measurements are. Like, that's something I don't fully trust. I don't know who's got their hands on that. They could manipulate that information. And I'm not a conspiracy guy. But I'm not just going to accept, especially Major League Baseball. Like they're like, sorry, but they're like the government. Like, I mean, like, are you just going to take their word for it? I mean, I don't know. I don't know who's got the reins on this exit velo data, but I don't look. My pound for pound equation is based on home runs, and people say, well, that's not fair. What about the guys who hit triples and doubles? Well, I don't like to include them because a lot of those extra bases are due to speed. So it's not, I want to get to the heart of the matter of the swing. And look, home runs, if you're consistently hitting home runs, that's consistent. That's consistency. Like, you may have a 230 average and hitting a lot of home runs, and that's not ideal, of course. But guys, what you'll find is that these guys who are at the top of the pound for pound list, they're hitting pretty decent average too. It's BS. Like, this whole thing, there's a little bit of sacrificing power for consistency, but it's way overblown. Most of the guys with a lot of consistent power have a lot of consistency. They're consistently hitting the ball hard. That's what hitting's about. You know? That's what hitting's about. There's just, people don't want to admit that because one, they don't know how to teach people to hit the ball harder. But they can sure as heck teach hitting to all fields and slap hitting and small ball. And it makes them sound like they're more of a student or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, come on, you guys know what I'm talking about. Like, you want to be the guy at the party who's like, not you, but these guys, they want to be at the party like, no, you don't understand, man. Baseball's it's not just hit the ball hard, man. You have to, we're smart. I mean, we you have to Tony La Russa, he was brilliant. Like, dude, you go back and watch like Tony La Russa, almost all of his decisions were just screwing up the game for his team. Like, I'm on the page of Moneyball, which said all this stuff that managers do to try to strategize and all this small ball tactics, like, they're actually not doing anything. They're worse, I think. They make teams worse. Like, if you just left it alone and didn't try all your sneaky, like, hit and runs and Like, I'm not saying that it's all nonsense and terrible, but mostly it is. I mean, it but then again, I'm coming from the angle of like, hey, we can teach 1 to 9 to hit with power. Like, just incorporate more of their lead side and less of their back arm, and we can have a power hitting team from 1 to 9, even the pitchers. So, is exit velocity a true measure of how hard a ball has been hit? If not, what is? Go for home runs. I mean, that's what I think. Just look at how consistently someone's hitting home runs. Like, they're the ones who are hitting the ball the hardest. You can't like get around that. You can't consistently hit home runs and not just be somebody who hits the ball hard pretty damn consistently. You may not have the average of Tony Gwynn, but that's overrated. I mean, and it's also not as fun to hit for high average. Like, you're going to get the respect of all the coaches in the know, but you're going to have more fun. You're going to be more valuable if you just try to hit the ball hard. And Tony Gwynn, when he first went to San Francisco, this is one of his regrets professionally, because he tried to like show that he was like a high average guy, not just a home run hitter. And he did. He raised his average and decreased his home runs because he was trying to just poke the ball a little bit more. But he regrets it, and he went right back to. He was like, "Why do I care what these San Francisco fans or writers think of me? I'm just gonna do what's better for me and the team and my value, and that's hit more home runs." So, anyways, yeah. Yeah, so Bautista, they were doing something. Yeah, Bautista's an interesting story. He made a swing change, and he says that the swing change was really just getting started earlier. I mean, that's pretty basic, but that I believe it. That can be very helpful. Um, and it does have a lot to do with lead side dominance, because it takes some time for that barrel to drop down. If you're getting ready earlier, like you can't just quickly snap like they're doing today and get very much of your body into the hit. It's going to be very armsy, right? So he was getting started earlier, getting the foot down earlier, and I think that probably helped him use more of his body. You know, like you said, they were whipping their bodies, you know. You Mama is still with me, and he says, I like your philosophy. To me, conventional instruction is trying to make everyone into what Bruce Lee would call mechanical man. Interesting. I never knew that he I'll have to look. You know, I've been having the urge to get into Bruce Lee, but I feel like I got to grow my hair out and get like a ponytail if I do. So I've been like delaying that. But I'm going to have to grow the ponytail, because I think he said a lot of truth, but I just don't want to like sometime down the road like start saying be like water, man. Be like water with my long ponytail. But I might have to do that. But no, honestly, he seems like a guy like that I would agree a lot with. Like I don't know too much about him, but I read a lot, and I've thought about getting some book that allowed me to get a little more insight into his stuff. Um, so the goal should be combining naturalness with science, natural unnaturalness. Be like water. Um, I mean, sure, science is a good tool, you know. But we all like look at, again, going back to like Ido Portal. Look at how the monkeys move. We all came from the trees, you know. It's pretty hard to deny that. Like we have, if not, we have a lot of that DNA. Whatever you want to believe. We were arboreal. And you know, you need to you know, move more like they did when they were swinging from trees every now and then. Honestly, you know, look at monkeys moving across the ground. You know, Ido Portal's logo is a monkey. This is how I wanted to spend my Friday night. Found your stuff 2 days ago. Been hooked ever since. Thank you, man. Pierce Khan. That's a sick name, bro. Pierce Khan? Dude, you're going pro. I mean, like, that's awesome. Wait, that's all it is? The back arm has to turn off for elite baseball players to slot the barrel behind them? Correct. It's that simple, man. 30 years of my life trying to understand what a great swing is. Just shut off the back arm exertion. If you swing with just your lead arm, try it now. Get up. I'll give you a second. Grab a bat. Hopefully it's a smaller one, but if not, just grab a regular sized bat. Watch out for that lamp to your right and take swings. And as you're doing that, you'll notice that the barrel is slotting perfectly. You're getting that front humerus compression. You're getting the hands more behind, or the hand more behind you. Now you just add the back arm and don't let it screw up that action. And it's really that simple. Don't chase positions. You know, it's really hard for me to do this because I'm just sitting there staring at my old looking face. It's really crazy to get old. All these wrinkles and like. Anyways, what movements specifically can allow for back arm dominant hitters to have a more dominant lead arm? Swing with just your lead arm. Get to know that, build the muscles that engage in that action, and spend some time in that, you know? And then when you add your back arm, like I said, you're going to have to teach it to stop overexerting. So for a while, especially at that start action, make it follow the same path. It's okay if you want to exert it after that at some point, but especially at that starting forward action, and just notice the action I'm talking about by swinging with just your lead arm. And then when you add your back arm, just make it do, especially, like I said, that slotting action that starts the forward swing. Make your back arm follow at that point. Do you think pitching machines force a back arm dominant swing? It's hard to flow into the swing since they're harder to time up. 100%. Do you think pitching machines force a back arm dominant swing? Yes. Yeah, they force a lot of bad things. I'm not against technology, guys. If something comes along that's good, like when virtual reality gets so good that you actually can work on your pitch recognition, I don't think it's quite there yet. It has to really give you the specifics of the release of the pitcher, which I haven't seen yet. But I'll be in favor of that. That'll be a huge game changer for pitch recognition skills, I believe. But it's going to have to be precise. Like you're going to have to see the release and then be able to see the ball where it ends up. And it's going to have to be real realistic. But that could be a huge improvement for pitch recognition skills. Yeah, it's harder to flow into the swing. If you guys have to work with pitching machines, what you should do is really work primarily on your secondary cushion. So you want to get your stride out of the way like ridiculously early and work on it that way. So basically you're working on like, I mean, that's the best I can think of. But they're terrible. Like they're terrible. Pitching machines, I just think if you have to, because you have a coach who uses one, then do it that way, I would think. Whatever you do, don't wait for the pitch, for you to see the pitch to start your movement. That's what's ruining swings out there. It is ruining it, but I should say that's what's producing the modern swing, partly, and the instruction, which is kind of the the instruction always wants to find some way to legitimize the tools that it uses, right? So that they all kind of work together. But yeah, the pitching machines are terrible because they do exactly that. They lead to stay back and throw the hands and be quick and this whole like still as a statue, and then boom, like just snap it. Like, okay, it can work if you're 280. It can work if you're 250, but still doesn't mean there's a like even though it's working for those guys, doesn't mean that's the best they can do. They can have a better swing. And that's what's scary. That's what the future will be. Like we're talking 80 homers, like and high averages, Bonds type stuff, and beyond. What movement specifically can allow? Yeah, I already answered that one. So I swear I've heard swing with your lead arm about 30 times. I love it. I mean, I haven't said it enough. I don't feel like I say it enough. I've heard you talk a lot about the benefits of juggling. What specifically do you think it helps with? Hand-eye coordination. The best thing you can do for hand-eye coordination is hit live pitching. There's no doubt about it. It's not even close. So let's not try to. I'm not going to try to act like it is. But when you're juggling, you're not seeing the ball hit the hand. And when you're hitting, you're not seeing the ball hit the bat. And I think that that's one of the correlations that they have. So in terms of, excuse me, in terms of hobbies, in terms of, I think it's a good exercise. It helps with defense as well. We're handling a ball on defense, and I think it does help with that. I remember specifically playing shortstop. It was a D1 game, and I do this trick in juggling where I throw it kind of rides my shoulder and goes over, and I catch it with my hand back here. Well, the ball did that. and I caught it back here and I threw the guy out. But it's honestly, it's not a must. Juggling is not a must, but it's fun. I do it actually between my ring exercises because it's harder to do it. I also but yeah, it's got somewhat of a correlation to hitting in that way, but nothing necessary that you have to do. That's the that's the project that Driveline is working on, I think. Oh, where there is a monitor, then the ball comes out. I mean, they're just into all these, like, Driveline is that's convention these days. Driveline is like everyone, all the major leaguers too. They feel like they're missing out, and so they go see Driveline. Like, I don't want to miss out on, what's the latest. And it's like, again, you can take this as this guy's jealous or whatever. Like, I'm just telling you the truth. Like, I've not seen anything impressive that Driveline is doing. It's It's like they have all this technology, and then when it comes to like teaching, they go to basically 3 different drills, and they're not even like uh, novel drills. And there's nothing novel about and they're teaching basically the same stuff. It's more that TPI stuff of like, we're gonna wow you with all of our expensive equipment. We're gonna try to make you feel like we're designing a program specifically for you. We're gonna make you feel like you're on the cutting edge and you don't want to miss out. Um, and it's just a racket. Sorry. That's my belief. That's just my belief. Um, a lot of kids that hit well off the machine go by the sound when it comes out. I think that hurts some of them. Huh. Like like they're reading how fast it is by the sound? I don't doubt it. We're creatures of the habits that we have. You wanna hit off a machine, you're gonna get better at hitting off a machine. Guess what? In a game, there's no machine. It's gonna screw you up. You want to sit. There was a gentleman who's I'm not ripping on this guy, and I don't wanna like, you guys, I don't wanna act like I don't wanna sound like I'm ripping on you guys, any one of you guys. But there's a gentleman who showed me his son doing lead arm, hitting a tire against a wall with his lead arm, and he wanted to know, is this a good drill? For some reason, people don't want to do just the basic thing. In baseball, there's a pitcher throwing a ball. When it comes to mechanics, we have to use more of our lead side. Yep. But let's just swing a bat. Swing a bat with your lead side. Don't throw things. Don't, hit tires, because you're not doing the movement that you need to do. You're straining your body, but not getting much out of it. The swing is I'll never forget when I worked with Raul Ibanez. I was like in my low 30s, like 31 or something. And he said, I have to save my swings. And I actually asked him, like, what do you mean by that? And he goes, you'll find out. And like, people just think that you have unlimited, like, just swing mindlessly. Let's swing in our sleep and let's just keep going. Who cares? No, make your swings count. And the best way to do that is to swing a bat, not throw a medicine ball, or like, people want to do something different for some reason. And what you really should be doing is trying to do the exact thing that you need to do. If you're trying to work more lead side, swing a bat with just your lead arm and hit a ball. You don't really have to hit pitching with just your lead arm. I suppose you could have someone throw game speed tennis balls or something like that, and throw in curves maybe, and that would be a cool drill. I mean, but really, just try to make it simulate baseball. And people want to get away from that for some reason. I don't know what it is, but they want machines. They want expensive this, expensive that, pitching machine this, an app where you can view pitches, and like, just anything. And I've been to these ABCA conventions, and I know that this is a problem. People are just wanting to see, or they're wanting to just get away from, really, I don't know what it is. We want to turn away from what we know is really the right thing, which is just the basics. You don't need a whole lot of stuff, man. And no one out there is going to tell you that, because they're owners of facilities or something like that, and they want you to feel reliant on them. The last thing they're going to tell you is, man, you don't need all this equipment. You just need a bat and a ball. And honestly, I really would advise you guys to take a bat and a ball to a field and just hit it far and then go get it and hit it again. I mean, maybe you could take a bag, whatever. But like if you only have one ball and one bat, you can get plenty of good work in. You can do sprints to go get the ball or something like that. That's another thing. Like people do you guys sprint around the bases? That's what you do in a game. Are you on the base paths when you guys are working on your running? Most of you guys probably aren't. You're probably on a track or like just try to do what's actually being done in a game. And the biggest thing is the pitcher hitter battle. Engage in that battle as often as you can. Let me see. I probably should wind down. 2 hours and 20 minutes in. Edwin, thanks again, man. Let me see what you. I'm not sure what people. I'm not privy to like some of this stuff. Like Pierce Khan sent like 3. I don't even know what they're called. And then Edwin sends a bracket. I don't know. Maybe those things mean like I'm gonna kill you or you're great. I don't know. A lot of the kids that hit. Okay, I read that. Which one individual has ruined the most baseball swings? Charlie Lau. It's an interesting question, man. Charlie Lau. But Driveline is going to be a good competition. Obviously, Griffey had a beautiful swing, but when the discussion about great swings comes up, I don't think enough is said about strawberries. Yeah. How would you compare the swings of those two? I have compared those two swings before. Yeah, you're right. Strawberry, they both had their lead side, their lead side working mostly. Thank you for sharing your belief on Driveline. I really like to hear all sides because I trained there for a while. The hitting trainers don't throw enough to the hitters training in-house. Huh. What does that mean, training in-house? Like they're always training there, I guess? Yeah. It's just these guys, they want you to feel like they want to use the machines. They don't want you, they want you to be reliant on them. They're paying a lot of money for this facility. They need people to show up. But really all you need is I think we need to get back to real basics. That's not to say that I'm against technology. When the right technology comes along, but right now we're just any technology is bring it on. Come on. Let's go. Let's act like we understand every little piece of technology that comes at us and we know exactly what it's doing for us. No. Some of this stuff is just not, doesn't have all that much value, or the value is being misunderstood. Like these launch angle monitors. This is a great example of this. The launch angle monitors 5-6 years ago. All these geeks into, wanting to basically start the next Moneyball, but on the player development side. They took the launch angle monitors and thought they were Bill James and reading the data, and they were like, yo, home runs happen between 25 and 37 degrees. All we have to do is teach hitters to hit the ball at 25 to 37 degrees, and we're going to start a launch angle home run revolution. That's the wrong interpretation of how this technology can help. Actually, I think these launch angle monitors are great, but they're not great because they show us that home runs are hit between 25 and 37 degrees. They're great because they can have kids playing one-on-one baseball at these facilities instead of going and getting lessons and being bored out of their minds. They can go to these facilities and play one-on-one baseball on any field they want, because these launch angle monitors can show an actual field and you hitting the ball on the field, even though you're in a cage. That's the value of these launch angle monitors. So a lot of this technology, like, people just want to right away, like, act like they've extracted the benefits from it. Look, I studied the swing. I used video as my tool. I studied the swing for 25 years on video before I extracted what I think is the most valuable thing I've gotten from it, which is the very simple understanding of just utilizing more lead side. That's how long it took me to extract from this tool the value. And by the way, I think video is being ignored now. And video is still, to my mind, the number one form of feedback. But people want to, like, see velo, exit velo, and launch angle, and they're using all this stuff as their primary feedback. And I think video is still not being respected. Like, people only casually kind of look at it, it seems like. I don't know. Oh, it's pointing to the comment above. Okay, let me see. That's funny. How would you be able to do that? You'd have to be pretty quick to put that in. Do you think pitching machines force a back arm dominant swing? Yeah. So is that question that Pierce Kahn was wondering about. Let me see how Instagram. Lots of clunky throwers who had their mechanics messed with at an early age. Oh, Justin. Justin said that. Thanks, Justin. I hope you're still with us. Clunky mechanics combined with trying to max out velo is bad combo. Yeah, that's the thing, man. With throwing, I'm sorry, man. I'm not like someone who's looked into throwing like crazy amounts, okay? But I just think it's all I've seen is when throwing mechanics start getting messed with, just people just get very robotic, and that's it. I think that pretty much we know how to throw, and just, I don't know. That's just my kind of, I guess you could say, unprofessional opinion. But I mean, like, I was a player, and I do know what they were trying to teach me, and pretty much everything, like, have your foot land more like on the balls of your feet, or what did they wanted you to like be in this position or something like that. Like, it was very position oriented, and it just ended up being clunky. I think I honestly think, whether it's baseball or throwing coaches, I mean hitting or throwing coaches, if they did nothing but just said throw more from your other side, they would have done way more value than they ever did. If Charlie Lau just said, swing from the other side, I'm not going to give you any instruction, just swing from your other side. And look, George Brett said he gained a lot from Charlie Lau. A lot of hitters said they did, but a lot of hitters, were instructed to stay clear of him. A lot of the front office people were not happy with Charlie Lau. They felt like he was ruining a lot of guys. And I can promise you, his book, The Art of Hitting 300, that ruined a lot of people. I'm sorry. Trying to think, like, I don't know who came up with that whole hands to the ball, because I don't even know if Lau said that, but maybe he did. I don't know, but that was kind of the swing that was being taught, and I kind of associate it with Lau. But anyways, do you have any thoughts on front foot in the swing? My son lands on his heel, and it looks strange to me, but he hits the ball so hard, I'm reluctant on changing it. Yeah. I get this so often from dads. Like, dads are like, it just looks strange. Like, It looks strange again because we have this notion that mechanics have to be like things hit perfectly and symmetry, like, you know, whatever, geometric patterns, and I don't know. Like we have this idea that like I don't know. It's probably fine. I mean, he lands on his heel. Trying to think. I'm just trying to think of like hitters. I'm sure there's some hitters who landed on their heel. It's just not a I wouldn't mess with it. No, I definitely wouldn't mess with it. When you start getting kids thinking about things like that, you're getting them off on the wrong page. They're thinking like it's going to make their movement more clunky, you know? And that's just the way he wants to land. There's no problem with that I see. I'd have to see video. Um, I'm not saying that I wouldn't ever change. You can tell I boxed because it's bothering me. My nose is crooked. It's like I want to push it that way. Anyways, yeah, I won't change that. I never want to instruct lower body, like big muscle movement. I say that a lot. Guys who know my stuff, you guys know I don't like messing the big muscles know what they need to do to produce the force. If you want to make changes, you make changes to the smaller muscles, and then the big muscles react. They say, okay, we're going to use that structure. Okay, then we need to move like this. So they kind of change. When I have team practices outside, we would sadly hit off the machine. But since I've learned from you, I would stride super early to work on my secondary cushion. There you go. But right after my practice, I would hit regular BP to get back on the site of an arm. Yeah. But why use the machine at all, you know? Oh, because the team wants you to. I know. I don't know. Boom, 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 boom. I'm getting these waves out of the way. So I guess we'll kind of wrap up, but I'll do this again next week. I find your videos really interesting and I enjoy your content, but I was wondering your take on your style of swinging versus the HLP type swings. HLP? I've never heard of that. Huh. I don't know what that is. No, I mean, this is I could go on. Maybe we should save this for next week because this is a whole big I mean, I'll sum it up. HLP is not what I call it because it's not my high level pattern, but I respect Richard Skank, as I said earlier in this video, because he's a man who came up with his own method. Say what you want. He came up with his own method, and he has gotten a lot of resistance for it. But and that's why he's such an angry guy sometimes, because the baseball establishment can be jerks. Another thing I respect about his approach is that he realized that the flattening of the barrel is an important action in a great swing. That means he did some homework. That's not something that a lot of guys were saying. And he deserves some credit for that. But yeah, I think that he's completely wrong in his understanding. It's more of this hanging back on the back leg. It's moving quickly from a rather still position. It's very tight, but it rings true to people because we're still on this kind of launch angle craze, and it's a very stay back and swing up kind of move. And it's working for someone who's basically it's only working for one guy. I mean, he's worked with a lot of guys who haven't improved or gotten worse, or there's kind of hard to see if it's gotten better. But um, it's worked for his big, protege is Aaron Judge, who just happens to be the largest guy who's ever stepped into a batter's box. So let's see who can turn around a guy who's like 175, 185, like from not hitting home runs to hitting home runs. And I think that that's going to be the more lead side understanding of the swing, not HLP. So I think it's a red herring. And it's what everyone's jumping on right now, for sure. I've heard people say, it's not what Josh Cathcart tells me. It's not what everyone's doing, man. You think it's what everyone's doing. It is. It's what everyone's doing. And it is the primary swing of today. And people think that this is the way to swing. And people are really sold that this is the one way to swing. And it's just, oh, no, it's okay. He said, sorry, I just joined. You might have been talking about that. No, I'm just kidding because, I mean, that's the big, like I said, everyone's swinging that way. That's the big thing that, that my understanding, the more lead side understanding, our understanding, whatever you want to say, this more lead side understanding of the swing is competing with, that's the, these two understandings are battling right now, and we'll see who wins. It's going to be hard as long as people are thinking that Aaron Judge is a good example that this approach works. It's hard to convince anybody otherwise. I mean, this is literally probably the best right-handed hitter of all time. He's probably going to pan out to be the best right-handed hitter of all time. And so as long as people are kind of in the fog about that and not understanding that, it's primarily that he's 280. I'm not saying actually Skank's approach will work pretty well for a guy who's big like that. It's kind of a good approach. Like it worked kind of, he's doing Bonds' swing kind of. It's kind of a good way to do it when you're that strong because fields aren't that big to them. And they don't need to hit it 50 yards over the outfield fence. They just need to poke it over. And so maybe in some way, if you are a huge guy, maybe that is a great approach. But I still think there's one better. I still think that a more lead side approach and not hanging back on your back leg and instead learning a secondary cushion move and shifting some weight to the front side. I think Aaron Judge could be better than what he is. But I know this will play out in time. I may be dead and gone by the time it does. But at some point, I do know that my, I don't even want to say my, it's for the people, but this more lead side approach is going to win out. Do you have any thoughts on the front foot in the swing? My son lands on, oh, I already read that. See, I'm not very good at this. I agree on your take with Bonds. I worked a bit with Jim Lefevre, a former Mariners hitting coach, when Edgar and Griffey were there, and I'm sure a lot of that front side compression came from hitting heavy. Hitting heavy with heavy bats, I think you meant. Yeah. Hitting heavy balls and hitting with heavy bats. Yeah. As a kid, I mean, that's the best thing you can do for your kid. Just give them have them start as early as possible. Put wood in their hands. Deal with the dents around the house and on the car. And, people want to give plastic because they don't want the dents. Well, you're going to have to pay for that probably with his swing, So give them wood, always wood a little bit. But those ages from 3 to 5, like if he's swinging a bat at those ages, you're pretty much guaranteed a good swing. Just leave him alone from there. So, Let's see. Just make his swing so clean they don't have to say anything. I can't understand why they teach mechanics when the boys are at the plate. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Man, I'm so behind on Insta. Like, the information Richard discussed was created in the discussion board on. I know, I've heard that on batspeed.com. Jack Mankin is not allowed to defend his work that Richard is using as his own. Is that true? That's crazy, huh? I've heard you say that before. You've told me that before, and Jack Mankin, huh? Does he have videos that you can see where he's saying Richard's stuff? Um, but right after my practice, I would hit. Okay, so oh man, I don't know. I mean, it'd be scary to see Aaron Judge with like a Ken Griffey Jr. swing or like a Willie Mays swing. I have no doubt that he could hit the ball farther. It was a collective discussion. Interesting. That Richard Skank was doing. The information is still available on that site. I mean, is anyone digging it up and like confronting him with this stuff? I mean, not that I don't think that it's an understanding it's creative. It's a creative understanding. But I mean, just on the face of it, it's just kind of like, I mean, say what you will. Like people say I'm wrong about this, but like the swing is starting in the back hip joint and the wrist. It's like this marriage of the two or something like it's kind of convoluted. And it's just it, I mean, I'm not trying to like act like it's something, desirable that it's not. It's an interesting understanding of the swing for sure though. The information, yeah, you can look it up for yourself. This is not to say he had no knowledge, but it wasn't all his. Oh yeah, it's not to say he didn't contribute some or whatever. Interesting. I mean, but that's super interesting. Like I wonder, I have heard you say that before and I'm wondering how much it's just interesting. I mean, I would wonder how much is his and how much is, you know, the community's kind of. It'd be interesting if like somebody would if anyone wants to like take like screenshots of that, that'd be interesting. Of some of these discussions or something like that. But Jack Mankin, like again, is there video of this guy saying some of the same stuff? Interesting. I mean, it's just I'm sure, like you said, Skank probably came up with some of it himself as well. I'm thinking. I play for Team Pakistan national baseball team. These guys from Pak come from cricket background, natural front side hitters. Huh. He might Aaron Judge would kill some third baseman. I mean, seriously, like that guy is freaking huge. And honestly, does he hit even balls as far as like McGuire or even his teammate Stanton? You know? Like this is where exit velo would be a better kind of understanding for how good of a pound for pound hitter he actually is. Like exit velo would be ideal over home runs, which is what my pound for pound list uses. Because exit velo, once you clear the fence, every home run is just like every other home run, right? But it would be better to see who's clearing the fence more, I mean, you don't get more points for clearing the fence more, but we're trying to figure out who's hitting the ball the hardest, the most often. That would be, if we had exit velocity stats from all the way back when Major League started, that would obviously be ideal. Mankin created wood devices mimicking the Bond's swing. Interesting. Its action created from opposing forces of the hands working from opposite directions. Video is available. I have a theory of development. No one really cares about the kid's growth. Yeah. No, I mean, that's a lot of it is that these coaches have these kids for a few years. And I know they would never say, I don't mean to say that they're vicious, but, like they don't have a long-term kind of outlook. I heard recently someone say like, they're in their mid 40s or something, and they're talking about how my goal is actually to be such and such at 75. And I thought, wow, that's good way to look at it. Like you should approach your pursuits to be great in like 30 years. That'll give you a better and with baseball. Like I fizzled out of baseball in large part because I thought you had to be drafted as a sophomore in college. And so I was like frantic, and I should have had the mentality, I'm trying to get good by the time I'm 35. If I have to play in, I want to peak at 35, whether I have to play in, men's leagues or knock on doors at, in some no-name professional league, so be it. But I'm trying to peak at 35. If I had that mentality, it would have been better all around. It would have been better for my practice, and it would have been better for my play. Yeah. I was on that discussion board in the early 2000s, which is why I know. I commented under the name The Hitting Guru. If you look it up in the discussion board. That's interesting. I mean, I'm not okay. I don't know if I'll look it up. Like, I don't even know how to look it up in the discussion board. What was it again? I forget. You will see Richard's name in the same discussion. But you've mentioned this before. If you wanted to take like screenshots or something and send them over, it might be kind of interesting, like relevant screenshots. I don't know. Maybe there are too many or whatever, but you'll see Richard's name in the discussion board in around 2004 and 2006 to 2006 beginning. Ted Williams swing analysis video. I think I've done that plenty of times. I mean, his swing is good. No, I could do that again. Travis Bazana, the #1 overall. Dude, Travis Bazana is not a famous name. Even if he's a #1 pick, he's not going to make it. But Pierce Kahn, that's a name that's going to be famous. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm not, could be serious. Overall, #1 overall of the 2024 MLB draft, played cricket growing up because he's from Australia, I've heard. Yeah, we're going to start seeing literally every country is going to be represented in baseball pretty soon. Let's not be surprised. I mean, we're going to get India and Australia and, it's all going to be included. They actually track exit velo on Baseball Savant, and you can order it from highest to lowest EV. I know, but I think Stanton and O'Neill Cruz have higher average EV. Yeah, I've heard that. I know. O'Neill Cruz. I think he's only like 195, or maybe he's around 200. I know, but That's interesting, but it makes me wonder. I don't know. Um, I don't know. I don't know if I don't know who's tracking this stuff and if I would trust it, to be honest with you. But it is interesting. I mean, it makes you wonder, like, why isn't O'Neal Cruz hitting more home runs? Maybe he's not making contact as often, but it's yeah, that's crazy that he has a higher exit velocity than Judge. Wait, really? I don't know what you're saying that to, but I'm thinking that yeah, the Stanton O'Neal Cruz thing, that's pretty crazy. Why don't you think Bazana won't make it? I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, just the name, Travis Bazana. Like, have you ever noticed like great athletes always have perfect names? It's pretty odd. Babe Ruth, Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, like Travis Bazana. No, but um no, I think he could make I'm kidding. Batspeed.com, okay. So batspeed.com, I'll check it. I mean, I'll mess around in there and check it out. Rotational to contact and consistency, Ted Williams, Joe D swing. Okay, I don't know what that means, but um thank you guys. Uh if you have an email address, I can send you backup video or photos regarding Jack Mankin. Jamie at theswingmechanic.com. JAIME at theswingmechanic.com. JAIME. People want to spell JAMIE, but it's more like Jaime at theswingmechanic.com. Thank you. So thank you guys. I'll do this next week. I think this is a good way to do it. This is awesome. It's great to connect with you guys, Like, I don't know why I didn't do this earlier. Like, I don't know. It's a better way to do it. I can share my screen and show video. So this is good. Thank you guys. All my memberships and the super chat, Edwin Rodriguez, thank you. And I'm proud of you. The super chat, I appreciate. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.